Hello and welcome to another Hidden OP Junglers video, and in this one I have 3 new spicy picks for you that can really carry hard in the current meta. The first one is the main one in particular. I've been having a lot of fun with myself. I've developed some of my own tech with it, and it has also been corroborated with another high elo player. In order to choose for these kinds of videos, I have to wait and see how the meta develops and see which champions under 1% pick rate are really having a good time in terms of their data against the meta, but also just aren't really used because of some obvious downsides. However, if you understand these downsides and play around them, they can be extremely strong and potent in the right hands. For each jungler, I will give you the runes itemization, ability max order, how to play them, and what their strengths are. So hopefully you can have some fun defeating the meta with some new and different picks. And obviously let me know below what hidden OP picks you're enjoying this season, and please do consider leaving a like and of course subscribing. It does help me with the algorithm. It's been rough on us lately, but the Zada GG guides linked below will give you all you need to know about how to jungle with myself as a live companion to your chosen pick. Now first up, yes, it is the good Dr Mundo. And man, am I really excited to talk about this, because obviously everyone knows I like to do my own jungle, I like to do my Zyra jungle. Yes, you can gank your lanes, yes, you scale, but if you can't solo an objective here and there, push towers when you need to, you're really losing a lot of that edge. When you can't fight 1v1 in terms of matchups and you have to run away, when normally you wouldn't. These can be absolutely huge issues. But for the good Doctor of Mundoverse, that's not an issue. And what you will see is an absolute standard build. You can go this, you can enjoy yourself with this build, you're going full tank. Randuin's is such a great item at the moment, along with the Spirit Visage to aid in all the healing you have in your kit. And then you can swap it around and use a Frostfire if you want a bit more chaseability and stickiness to a highly ranged and mobile comp. Not too much of an issue with our approach velocity as you're seeing. Fleet footwork for your kiting and healing and of course chasing down people, but there is a lethal tempo tech that you can use. I did test it out quite extensively, but I didn't have as much success as with fleet footwork, where you of course get the healing in the jungle, you get the stickiness factor in fights, and obviously those late healings coupled with every other healing aspect in your kit cannot be underrated. Now I just wanted to show that on your screen because the build variation I came up with and also found independently someone else doing a very similar thing is you actually throw in that Tiamat. Now typically you don't rush it, you will still go for that Balmy Cinder, finish your Sunfire, you can get the Tiamat afterwards, and that's because it synergizes so beautifully with the rest of our kit in terms of our HP scaling and getting a lot of that attack damage working very well with the E as well as the Alacrity rune set. Following this, I typically will go Randuin's and Spirit Visage in the very exact same way, and then I will finish off the Titanic after that, or maybe even later in the game. It's not something I'm rushing like in a Warwick or a Volibear. And yes, the amount of times I've pushed Nash's Tooth and Titanic Hydra and Tiamat on champions over the last 5 years, yeah, I know, but they're just such great items. But now we have the builds and the clears, but how does all of this synergize together with the actual kit, and how can we maximize how this champion is played? And the absolute benefits of the current meta is that you really can take it to other champions in a 1v1 sense, but mostly that you can clear 256 when you start on the blue, go leashless, and only use one smite. That's right, one smite, 256, full clear. You're seeing that now from the Zenkai YouTube channel, and Kiz of course has an example of a red side to the blue side full clear, that takes you to 305. But in this situation, we do use 2 smites. So out of the gate, you're looking at something that can full clear, crab, and gank really early using a level 4 advantage. Remember, on the E, the blunt force trauma, when you're fighting enemy champions as well as farming in the jungle, getting low and missing HP, that's actually quite good because it gives you bonus attack damage based upon the health you're missing. Additionally, you also deal bonus physical damage increased by missing HP when you activate your E. This means if you want to be a little bit more risky to invade and so on, but if you're good at tracking, it's not an issue, then you can get yourself low and do this full clear. If you are against a heavy invader, you don't know where they began, you can cut your clear short to a 5 camber and of course keep your HP a bit more topped up in case a fight comes your way. But as we say, when that fight arrives, Mundo does as he pleases. And you would have seen a few examples of early fights, early ganks. Mundo really has a huge amount of power with the approach velocity by hitting his cleaver. We do like the attack speed because when we have an attack speed rune in the Alacrity, every time you stack that and every time you get bonus attack damage from your E, all of a sudden every single attack is now benefiting from that attack damage. So it's a lot of DPS that you can throw out, and that's not even talking about the damage that you have on your Q, which is of course target current HP, permanently slowing people capped against monsters, but we do max it. And then of course we have that absolutely beautiful passive that gives us basic regen, a nice simple ability, but the CC immunity. And when you pick up that health canister, you heal yourself and reduces the cooldown of your passive. Now remember, at max level, your cooldown is 15 seconds. When you pick it up, it reduces it by 15 seconds. So you can become quite disruptive and irritating for high CC comps. And that's not even talking about the absolute power dose of maximum dosage. So much health based upon your missing HP, so much bonus attack damage based upon your bonus health, so much extra movement speed. Really an absolutely disgusting teamfight ability that thrives in those messy skirmishes when you have a lead. So effectively what you're looking to do based upon all this information is make sure, yes, you're full clearing, you're getting a second sequence, we're getting 6 soon, but there's no reason, as you're seeing from the footage, that you cannot gank a lot early. You cannot really capitalize on bad lane states. You cannot simply invade and beat enemy junglers 1v1 and take their stuff super quickly. The farming speed, coupled with how quickly you do the dragon with your E, truly it was so refreshing for me. I was playing a whole bunch of war and swapped over to Mundo and I'm going, oh, so this is what that feels like. And then you just keep scaling and scaling and scaling, and even if you're having a weaker early game, your farming tempo, the ability for you to still turn fights due to your healing in your kit and of course your disruption with your cleaver, as long as you understand target swapping, when to throw a cleaver, when to use your E, keep that W. We're not even talking about the W, but the W is absolutely obscene in terms of that gray health, making sure you activate that on champions and monsters to get the maximum healing. There's been talk of people not liking it, but how can you not like it when he presses it and he goes brrrr? I mean, that's a great sound. But it also enables your tankiness within a fight. Your canister passive, the immunity, and as well as the healing from that. You have your healing from your ultimate, you have current HP damage, you have bonus attack damage gained. Your magic damage on the W does scale with bonus health as well. And yeah, I know people are thinking about the Thormail, it's great, but I do feel like you should build that only when it's truly necessary. The Randuin's is such a strong item, and obviously you can go Deadmans and Thormails against those full AD comps. As long as you're jungling like a good old-fashioned Omnivore jungler, I'll leave a link to that below. We did cover that recently, where you're balancing your farming and your ganking, and you understand the scaling factor. Even if you have low KP early, you will always make that up later. The solo objective power with the dragons and the heralds, the ability to of course escalate into 1v1 fights against enemy junglers, any enemy jungler, provided you stick to them and hit your cleavers, means you can go ahead and infect the enemy team, take their LPs, but if you're not comfortable with the AD factor on the Tiamat using that E synergy with that bonus attack damage and attack speed, don't worry about it, just go your Frostfire, go your Sunfire. Sunfire is better in terms of a baseline and you just become an unkillable demon monster. I just enjoy doing a little bit more damage and of course amping up my clear speed that much more. If I can finish camps even quicker, means I can rotate and be places quicker to impact the map. Truly an exquisite choice in the current meta. The data is good even though it's extremely limited, 0.1% pick rate. I do think more people should be playing Dr. Mundo. And I will release a joint gameplay video with this today or tomorrow, so have a look at the gameplay channel to see a full game application of the champion thriving. And the next one we are going to be talking about is of course Gragas. This drunken sailor buffoon has been off the radars for quite a while, but Canyon got rank 1 in Korea basically playing Phil, and every single time he was top lane, he'd take Gragas. And of course in the jungle he also uses Gragas. Historically a more ganking focused pick, a choice that would be better in pro play with his copious amounts of CC rather than for solo queue. But lately there's been a lot more Gragas running around the rift and doing a lot of damage with full AP build variants. Yes, you will see a Dark Harvest rune page on your screen now. You can of course go instead of sorcery secondary, the classical booties and cosmic insight. And while Dark Harvest does allow champions to scale a bit more into the later game should you choose to be a bit more tanky and bruisery, First Strike works extremely well, as does Electrocute for single target annihilation. However, please do not go Predator. Yes, you can physically use it, yes, you will get benefits, but the rune just really isn't an attractive choice at the moment, and it's better off to commit fully to a damage or a highly late game investment rune. Of course, as full clearing isn't really a possibility. At most, you're looking at your sort of 315 5 camping crab, or your classical 3 camp into an action. He currently has a bit of a cheeky 1% pick rate, which is way higher than it has been in the last few months or years. And that's because in 12.11, along with the durability update and changes to dragons, he got that 10% AP ratio buff on his barrel roll, a cooldown reduction on his body slam, that nice thing where he just goes and tickles your team with his belly, knocks everyone up, and then Yasuo does his thing. In synergy with something like a Zac, he has absolute insane amounts of CC. But of course he doesn't build tank anymore, we go on for full HP bruiser with a lot of damage. The atomization does kind of suit this reality a lot better at the moment. But all three of our picks here today do have a certain advantage in terms of healing. They have something that allows themselves to heal, sustain, and disrupt enemy fights and targets. The durability update has of course made champions who can thrive in elongated fights and dominate teamfights with better teamfight micro significantly better choices. And even though Gragas doesn't have that farming cadence that say Mundo has, he does have that pressure cadence that a Jarvan has. The difference is we have that healing on our passive, we have that slow and damage on our Q, the barrel roll. With our W, we do get to suck some juice, some drink out of our canister, and that gives us some damage reduction. And after this, exactly like Mundo on his E, you have an uncancelable windup, and gain that bonus attack range, which then does some magic damage. So while Mundo isn't really exactly the same here as the Gragas, there is that healing passive, there is that slow, perma slow and damage on the Q, there is that W, of course more like the E in the situation, that gives you an active that gives us some enhanced damage. But what Gragas really brings to the table is that body slam, that flash body slam, so much damage. It is a stun, it does initially knock them back, which means tenacity won't help them there, it helps them for the stun in 1 second, but not on the knockback. And he does get that 3-second cooldown reduction if he does hit an enemy. And then that's not even talking about that absolutely huge AoE knockback on the Explosive Curse ultimate. So what you have here is, yes, a jungler who cannot full clear and match the sort of required tempo of farming in the current meta, but what he can do is bring so much CC, so much teamfight ability, so much peel, so much engage to his fights, as long as you have a good original ganking pattern. You know how to play like a carnivore jungler. And that is a video I just put out last week, so go and watch that if you want to understand, you know, the ganking cadence and what's necessary for you to get yourself fed when you don't have the safety of falling back to farm. But as long as you can master that, my friends, as long as you understand those picks and where to gank and using good ganking angles, using the ability to map scale to get over walls with your body slam, using your damage reduction and empowered basic attack on that W really well, it is a champion that can bring a lot to the current meta, because we do not have these super hyper scaling farming junglers who can just lap now with 2-minute spawn timers, and because soloing dragons is not as free as it used to be, champions that require their team are basically on equal footing to those enemy champions, and as long as you are getting your laners fed and understanding the win condition, you yourself can be the win condition, yes, but you do have to understand which laner is going to help you. And everything I just said, Gragas is great at. Absolutely everything. Not to mention those Night Harvester buffs that came a while back, really great for him. Not to mention a buff to the Zhonya's giving some more AP and some more haste, something he absolutely loves, and that survivability. So on a 2-item spike in terms of Night Harvester and Zhonya's, Groggy Ice is looking very strong. And finally, I thought about making this section on Skarner, and then everyone would go, who? And I'd say Skarner, and they'd say, no, who cares? So I'm going to do it on Olaf because he has a 0.7% pick rate, my friends. Everyone goes, yeah, but Olaf's a regular jungler. So is Skarner. And you say, who again? And I'm like, exactly. And there's somewhere Captain Flowers is moaning and crying that no one knows who he is. And yes, Olaf has been better top lane since his mini rework that came through, but his clears are definitely more than sufficient with a 307 from the blue down and a 313 from the red up. Now here we have Olaf with his basic Berserker Rage giving him more healing on his missing HP, that lifesteal. A Q that feels and acts a lot more like a Mundo Q, although there's some subtle differences, for example giving 20% armor reduction for 4 seconds on everyone you hit, and also that scaling with 100% of his AD ratio, so that's a little bit different from your current HP on the Mundo Q. I've covered a full scope rework gameplay a few months ago, and I said basically, look, this isn't that great at the moment, but it could be very strong. And now we've had the durability changes, we've had the dragon changes, he's still seen top lane, and yet in the jungle, 0.7% pick rate despite having a pretty solid win rate. By that I mean it's 51.5%, and obviously when you have low sample size that means a lot less, and if it was a little bit higher, maybe it wouldn't be so good. But with an almost exact same rune page as Mundo, yeah, he takes the ghost a bit more than Mundo. The flash E on Mundo and the flash Q I think are really invaluable to have. You can go ghost if you like. Olaf does thrive a lot better with the ghost with his new ultimate. You really want to make sure you are chaining down those kills and getting those resets on both those spells, and if you do, you'll have a pentakill like you're seeing on screen now, which is of course the introduction in the previous video. His weakness does come from being able to be kited, and when you're behind, you do struggle to actually be able to execute on that fantasy. Top lane gives a lot more resources, a lot more ability to win the lane in a straight 1v1 sense, to escalate the game state, to be levels ahead of everyone else on the map, and that makes it more difficult for them to deal with you. But if having healing and a slow wasn't that similar to Mundo, his ultimate of course cleanses and makes him immune to CC as well. Not in the passive this time, but you're seeing a correlation with all three of these junglers. They have good win rates, very low play rates because people don't know how to execute them correctly. Hopefully with these items, room pages, and example clips, you've seen a few good executions of these champions, and provided you understand omnivore and carnivore jungling, again that's why I made those videos before this, you will see an easy way for these champions to thrive in a niche way. The nice thing about 3 hidden OP junglers is that 1, great data for the limited play rate that they have, they're not going to be banned, you seemingly match up extremely well with the meta, and typically you struggle into 1 or 2 really heavily highly played junglers. So as long as you know which one that is for you personally, you can ban them out and have absolutely no issue in the game. And if you are looking to correlate a lot of the jungle issues today and what you need to thrive in the current iteration of the jungle in your quest to be the eternal jungle difference, click the video in the box in the top right. And if you're still struggling to balance your ganking and your farming on whatever jungler you're playing, click the video in the box in the bottom left.